Okay, let's begin our Coors Light Polo Award qualifying post press conference here. And our third fastest qualifier was Kasey Kahne, and he drives the number 5 Farmers Insurance Thanks a Million Teachers.com Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Kasey, certainly it's a racetrack you've won this race before, and certainly how's your car shaking out for this weekend?
So far so good. We just ran qualifying stuff today with 600 miles and limits on engines. We want to run as much as we can Saturday, as longer runs and things to make sure we got the car right for Sunday night. But felt pretty good in qualifying. Just seemed to give up a little bit getting into turn 3. All 3 of my runs, I wasn't able to get to the white line quite as quickly as I would have liked. So we were working on that and just trying to keep the car on the track. I was a little bit free throughout the laps, and figured third ended up being pretty good for us. So I was pretty happy with our Farmers Insurance Chevy today.
Well, thank you, Kasey. And our second fastest qualifier for Sunday's 55th annual Coca-Cola 600 is Brad Keselowski, and Brad drives the number 2 Miller Lite Ford for Penske Racing. And Brad, talk about your car, how practice went, and then also about your qualifying effort and how that bodes for the race Sunday.
Yeah, well, based off of last week's practice, I would say as fast as our car was in the practice and not in the race, that I really don't trust any practice speeds right now, but we'll have to see what shows up here when it counts on Sunday. Practice here during the day is obviously a lot different than racing in the night. Speeds pick up, loads pick up, all that good stuff. But I was pretty happy with our effort here in qualifying today. We were pretty miserable to begin with, and credit to my guys. They kept working on it, and somehow we ended up second. I'm really not sure how. The first round, I think we ended up 24th right on the bubble, and the second round we were 7th or 8th and almost got knocked out, and then the third round we seemed to find a little bit more, but not quite enough, and ended up second. So proud of that effort. Really happy for my guys to see their hard work rewarded, but the main goal is to win Sunday, and hopefully we can pull that off.
I will take a few questions. We'll start with George Diaz right there in the middle, in the light blue, and then we'll come over to Tom and then to Viv.
Yeah, George Diaz, Orlando Sentinel, for both Brad and Kasey. Can you guys talk about this particular race? And obviously it's the longest of the season, and do you guys care for the marathon aspect of this race on Sunday?
Yeah, I like it. I think this race kind of goes back to the history of the sport, being 600 miles. I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing to do every week, but I think it's a good thing for here and acknowledging the history. And I think there's just a lot to be said for it, I guess, to summarize. But I enjoy it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to run 600 miles and run it as fast as we do. I don't know any other sport that runs not at least on an oval 600 mile. And I guess you have some endurance racing with road courses, but usually they switch drivers and do all that stuff. So I'm not sure of any other sport that, or even motorsport, that does 600 miles straight and 4.5 to 5 hours of competition for one athlete. So I think it's probably one of the most difficult challenges in all of sports, but it's one that I embrace and I really like. And I don't want to speak for Kasey, but I think a lot of other drivers do as well.
Yeah, I've always really enjoyed the 600, being able to start, usually it's sunny and hot out, and finish at night. As the cars change, track changes, things like that, and you just try to keep up with it throughout the race. It's a challenge, and so I've always enjoyed this race. It's a lot of fun to be part of each year, and even before I was in the Sprint Cup Series, I remember watching the 600s and just always, as a big race to watch, and something that I liked. We get people together and do that for this Sunday weekend. So yeah, to me it's a big deal, and enjoy being part of it for sure.
Go to Tom right here, Tom, and then we'll go to Viv, and then to Aaron and Lee.
Thanks. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Brad, you just made the comment that you don't trust your car's practice speed based on what happened last week. excuse me, and you made a comment a while ago about these cars are easier to drive than ever by themselves and tougher in traffic. Are you guys still struggling to find race setups on these?
Yeah, I've never been good at driving cars that have a, I guess you would put it, low horsepower to downforce ratio. And it doesn't suit my style. I think there's a few other drivers that it doesn't suit, and we keep going that way with the sport. So it's tricky. It's something I've got to adapt to if I'm going to have a shot at winning a championship or championships for years to come. And a byproduct of that downforce to power ratio is where practice means less and less each and every week because of the differences in the pack. It's, I guess, easiest way to think of it is it's becoming more like plate racing each and every week. And when we go to Talladega and Daytona to practicing by yourself isn't really helpful at all. So it's becoming more like that. Certainly, it still has a long way to go to get to that level, but it does drastically affect the way the cars drive. And I think you're going to see, if the sport continues to go down that route, cars that are fast in practice week in and week out are not going to win races because it takes it something different in practice than what it does in the race. So that's a hard mindset for me personally, and I think it's probably hard for a lot of people within the garage or a lot of people within the garage, but it's part of the evolution of the sport.
We'll go to Viv, Aaron, and then Lee.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. For Brad, we've seen a lot of pretty dramatic changes this year to qualifying, to reaching to qualifying for the playoff as well, and they've gotten fairly good reviews. The word that the racing is better this year, but we're not seeing the television ratings. In fact, they're down. Any idea why?
I thought that one was going to be for Kasey. I don't know. I think that the sport has gotten better since I've started. I first came in full-time in 2010. And my feel for it is that a lot of things have improved and that a lot of things can still improve. It's hard because I think sometimes those type of things, numbers and stats as it pertains to fan interest and ratings can get skewed by so many different variables, but momentum's a part of it as well. I think we have to rebuild some momentum in the sport, and we're doing the right things to make that happen. There were probably a few years where we were riding some momentum and things weren't as good as they should be or need to be, and there's probably going to be a few years where things are as good, if not better, than they've ever been as far as action's concerned, and we don't reap the benefits. But in the long term, which I think is how you have to look at the sport and look at those things in a big picture, if we continue to produce racing like we have this year, I think that it will come back and grow again.
Go to Aaron, Lee, and then to Jay.
Aaron Burns, National Speed Sport News. This is for Kasey. The last couple of weeks, you've had several strong runs, still looking for your first win, obviously, but could you talk a little bit about how your relationship with Kenny and the kind of rapport that you guys have had, has that helped you guys kind of find a strong point in the season right now?
Well, we had to really sit down and talk about things together and get back on the same page. There's a lot of things that we're, thinking differently on the first 6 to 7 weeks of the year, and so we've spent a lot more time the last month and a half together and figuring this out than what we had early in the year when we were maybe thinking different directions and things with the car and adjustments, setups, and things like that for each track. So yeah, I feel like our relationship's still really good, and because we have that, we've been able to figure it out and do enough testing and things to get back on track. The teammates are really good and helpful as well, but it still wasn't really just clicking with us this year, using their information, so we had to figure it out ourselves, and I think we've gotten a lot better since we've done that, and now I think everything's starting to make sense from what all the guys are doing and what we're doing with our car, so it's much better today than it was a month ago.
Let's go to Lee, Jay, and Jared. Lee?
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. How much have you missed Keith Rodden this year, Kasey?
I mean, I miss him some because we're really good friends. I spent a lot of time with him over the years. But, you know, Chris does a great job as an engineer, and the more I'm around Chris, the more I, you know, like, understand him, and we're building that relationship. Similar with Kenny, over the last month and a half, we've had to spend a lot more time together, and so Chris is a great guy, and you know, just like anyone, if you spend time with him, you get to know them better and respect the way that they go at their job and things. So it's good. I feel like our team's strong, and glad Keith's running well, and as a crew chief and things that he deserves to be. And but I feel like we're in a really good spot with Chris.
And with the 4 and the 20 both not getting out to make a lap, have either one of you guys lost sleep thinking that that could be you? I mean, the clock's ticking, it's the final round, you just don't get out in time, and the next thing you know, you're kind of like on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're just waiting, you know, to try to get the coolest open racetrack that you can for a night like tonight. I'm not sure that last 30 seconds how critical that is, but you're looking for an open track as well, so that's what they were doing. We were really close at Kansas on a second run. I think we made it by 5 or 6 seconds, you know, before they threw the red, so we got to run that lap. You know, so you'd definitely push it as close as you can to get your tires cooled off and try to get the coolest racetrack conditions, but I'm surprised that neither one of them did in this session, 12 cars, 5 minutes. I mean, I'm surprised. That would definitely not go over well if we missed it.
Sorry, it's late, it's bedtime.
Let's go in the back, Jay, and then Jared.
Jay Pennell with Fox Sports. Brad, can you talk about what goes through your mind during a qualifying session? You're one of the guys, it seems like you're very active during the session. You go out there, you run your lap, you're getting out of the car, you're looking at the computers, you're walking up and down pit road. Just kind of talk about what's going through your mind during these sessions.
Well, lately it's been, oh crap. You know, the first round we missed it at Kansas and recovered and got in on the closing seconds. You know, I think this weekend too we were right on the edge with 24th in the first round. Quite a few of these scenarios we've been, you know, almost right on the bubble, if not right out. This is, I think, our 11th qualifying session of the year, and we've been on the edge each and every one of them. So for me, I like to get out of the car and just kind of walk it off. You know, I like to walk and talk when I'm on the cell phone too, because it just helps me focus. But you know, I think that there's always ways to be better, and as a team, I'm not happy with qualifying poorly. I'm not happy with racing poorly either, don't get me wrong, but the great thing about these sessions is that there's multiple opportunities to get it right, as long as the tires and the track provide it, with consideration to fall off. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's why it's so much fun, and I think it gives you a chance to really shine through, and for me that's been really helpful.
Final question, Jared.
Yeah, Jared Turner, Fox Sports. For Brad, just knowing how dominant Jimmy has been here in the past and the fact that he hasn't won yet this year, does that make you a little bit nervous that he could kind of finally hit his stride on Sunday night?
Yeah, if I only wanted to beat Jimmy Johnson, I want to beat all of them, though. You know, I would not be happy running 42nd and beating Jimmy Johnson. You know, I want to beat everybody, and you know, there's a lot of other good drivers who haven't won a race this year as well. So certainly Jimmy has a great track record and beyond. But I'm not going to sit here and just focus on him. You know, there's a lot of other good cars. The 4 car, really all the Stewart-Haas cars to me are just phenomenal. You know, they've kind of got everything rolling right now. I feel like if everything's fair and square, they could win every race from here on out throughout the season. Now there's other variables that fall in with pit stops, yellows, and other things like that. But without those, that car seems to have the most speed. So, you know, they've done a good job, and they're the guys that I think everybody's looking at right now to beat.
Brad, Kasey, thank you for coming in, and continued best of luck the rest of the weekend.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. See ya.